Well, the Appleton Institute is the newest research centre within Central Queensland University. It's an exciting new experiment. First, it's located in Adelaide, which is increasing the national footprint of Central Queensland University. But it's also a multidisciplinary group. We have people from all sorts of backgrounds, people with maths, biology, psychology, physiology, anthropology. So the idea is to bring together a really smart group of bright young people and to get them to work on wicked problems. So each of them brings their own disciplinary approach, and together, by all looking at it through our own particular lens, we hope that we can craft reasonable and practical solutions to some of the more difficult problems the community's facing at the moment. Most of the work that we do focuses around helping organisations manage fatigue. We do a lot of work related to how sleep and fatigue work together. But sometimes those organisations may be elite athletes, sometimes they may be coal workers, although most of the coal workers think they're elite athletes anyway, so maybe it's the same thing. What we've probably contributed most to is getting people to understand that fatigue has a significant impact on people's lives, both in the short term in terms of accidents and injuries, but also in the long term in terms of their health and well-being. And the many causes of sleep disruption can actually be improved. That is, you may not be able to solve the problem entirely. I think the other area we've been quite innovative in is helping organisations understand how best to manage the risks associated with fatigue and getting them to stop obsessing about the roster as the only means of solving that problem. So we've introduced a whole new suite of approaches to managing fatigue-related risk or fatigue-related impairment. So, for example, the work that's done with elite athletes, sometimes the work we do with parents of young children. Kids in their first couple of years don't sleep that well. Many of their parents suffer as a consequence, as I'm sure you understand. So trying to help people deal with that and manage it as part of a busy life. Yeah, it was an interesting collaboration. It came out of a discussion with Seeley and some conversations about some work that they were doing from a marketing perspective. They called us up and said, look, are there some particular scientific questions you'd be interested in? And the conversation went on, and we ended up with a web-based survey, 13,000 respondents, which is the largest amount of respondents we've had to any survey like that ever in Australia. And a range of questions that covered a lot of issues we were interested in around about the science of sleep, but also some really interesting sociological or psychosocial stuff around what people are doing in their bedrooms these days and how the bedroom and the sleeping environment has changed and the impact that that has on our opportunity to sleep and the quality of the sleep that we do get in the new sleeping environments. There were a couple of things that were really interesting to us. The first was the extent to which what we used to call the bedroom could now be characterised as a room that just happens to have a bed in it. There's a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So we saw a huge intrusion of screen-based technologies, whether that be computers, video games, smartphones, but also, interestingly, particularly for older people, the co-location of the bathroom. That is, the last 20 or 30 years has seen almost a ubiquitous introduction of the ensuite bathroom. And, you know, when you look at a couple of people in their 60s or 70s with 2 or 3 trips to the bathroom each night, either due to bladder or prostate problems, that's 6 interruptions per night for a couple, and that's a lot of getting back to sleep that doesn't happen. So there's a lot of changes in the way we use our bedrooms, the way we design them, what we put in them. And I think that's carrying some interesting consequences, not for everybody, but for a certain proportion of the population. They're finding there are a number of alternatives that seem vastly more entertaining than sleeping. Well, you know, as my grandmother said, it ain't rocket science. And I think probably for most people, if you keep your sleeping environment cool, dark, and quiet, and they're the 3 basic essentials. Again, what the survey showed us was that there's a lot of bedrooms that aren't that quiet anymore, and they're not that dark anymore. And a lot of that's to do with the introduction of technology into that space, and the toilet, for that matter. So what we're saying to people is it's not a problem for everybody, but for people who it is a problem, they are having difficulty sleeping, go and look at the sleeping environment. That's the first place to start. So, for example, in the survey, the most common source of people being woken up was their partner or technology. Now, I'm not suggesting everybody goes and gets their own bedroom, but I think starting to think about how you make the environment cool, dark and quiet, and how you minimise the opportunities for other things to do than sleep, that will probably help people get to sleep. Yeah, that's a really interesting new area of research. It's quite controversial, but there's been some laboratory studies by ourselves and others, mainly in the US, which have looked at what the effects of sleep deprivation in the short term are on people's carbohydrate metabolism. And what you see is that there's a whole range of physiological changes that are associated with sleep loss, and they're not surprising. If you are out of sleep, your body interprets that as a lack of energy and likes to eat more, and more junk food in particular. That is, you will have a preference to move probably towards high-fat, high-sugar foods which give you that instant energy buzz. And there may well be a strong evolutionary component in that. That is, in the past, when we were running around the savannah, if you were sleepless, there was probably a good reason for it. And it was probably threatening, and therefore there was a likelihood that you need to acquire more energy in order to escape or protect yourself or those kind of things. What we're seeing, however, if you fast forward into the 21st century, is that the sleep loss that people are experiencing, probably due to work, family commitments, and, frankly, just too many exciting alternatives at night, which we didn't used to have. What we're starting to see is that there are some quite significant physiological changes. So the hormones that regulate appetite and satiety, or how full you feel, are altered by sleep loss. What we don't know, however, is what the long-term effects of that are. It's very difficult to sleep deprive somebody for 10 or 15 years in an experimental protocol. But if we look at the people who have had long periods of shortened sleep, then we do find that they're more obese. We do have a plausible mechanism from the laboratory studies that suggests that those individuals' hormone and physiology levels are changed. And it may be the case that sleep loss does alter carbohydrate metabolism and predispose you to obesity. But it's also worth commenting that the effect is probably small. That is, we're talking in the order of 10 to 20 calories a day. So if somebody said to me, I'm going to give up an hour's sleep or 2 hours sleep, but in exchange for that I'm going to walk briskly for 45 minutes, that might be a not unreasonable trade for some busy people. So while there is a link, I don't think we should be panicking that it's going to be the major cause of type 2 diabetes or something like that. Well, again, my grandmother probably already understood that. We've just done it to 5 decimal places. But in a sense, tired people are grumpy people, and they don't communicate well, they don't make decisions well, and if they get tired enough, their hand-eye coordination and their reaction times are poor, so they don't drive particularly well. And if they get really, really tired, then they fall asleep. And if they fall asleep while they're doing something dangerous, like driving a car, then that can be fatal. So again, you've got to think about fatigue in the context of the job and what it is that the person's doing while they're tired. If your job is to operate the photocopy machine, it may not be the biggest problem in the world. On the other hand, if you're landing a jumbo jet, it probably is something we'd like our pilots to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed while they do it.